power, strength, and fortitude. It's something that other nations of people know that we have because we have endured so much for centuries at the hands of our oppressors. However, they strive to keep us in a weak state of mind. And the way they keep us in that weak state of mind is by messing with um, messing with our image of ourselves, how we see ourselves. It's like if you take a perfectly good dog and you beat this dog all the time, you're either going to have one or two results out of this dog. The dog is either going to be crazy, like mad, wanting to bite everybody, like a fighter dog, or you're going to have a dog that's scared and weak and unable to defend itself and just terrified of everything. Well, that's pretty much what they've done with. I'll speak on the blacks in the United States of America because that's what I am. I am a quote unquote black person in America. So that's what I can speak on. But that's what they've done with blacks all around the world. But most assuredly, they have done this with the blacks in America. Well, they feed us stereotypes and they reduce us to maybe about 10 characters. Probably that's an overstatement, but about 10 repeated characters. And they show these 10 repeated weak characters or spiritually weak characters to us over and over and over again in order to reinforce the behavior they wish in which they wish to see us perform at a weak level. And basically, to simplify, what for us is weakness is for them their strength, and what for them is their strength is our weakness. The ways of the so-called Caucasian or white, so-called whatever they want to call themselves or label themselves, the things that make them strong make us weak, and the things that make us weak make them strong. So they're when you're working with a system like racism, white supremacy, the way in which they keep the upper hand and keep their full strength is by making us divert from what's natural to us. So when we behave like them as quote unquote black people, if we behave like them, they're of course going to be the best at being them that they can be because it's natural to them, right? When we attempt to be like them, we're weak. Now, if the roles were reversed and we're living in a system which was dominated by quote unquote black people, they would be at a disadvantage because they would be trying to be the best us they could be. And that's just the basic fundamental of it. We're weak because we're trying to be like them. And in all of this trying to be like them, they manipulate the media and the situation to where they're only viewed in more favorable positions. Not to say that they don't have characters on television that are not favorable, but it's a psychological game they play in which they place themselves in a position of different positions of victimization, of superiority, of they put themselves in a position where you feel sorry for them. You have sympathy for them. They put us in situations where there's no sympathy for us, even to the point where quote unquote black people don't have sympathy or empathy for themselves, and that we would feel empathy or sympathy for our oppressors. Case in point, there's a new show on, I think it's the CW, called Emily Owens MD. I've seen the promotion for this show like many, many times, and for some reason they choose to promote the show by one scene in which this quote unquote black woman that I guess she went to medical school with, the character went to medical school with, and they portray her as the white doctor Emily Owens as her bully in medical school. They keep playing up this angle and making the white woman the victim, the one that should be sympathized with, when in reality that's a scenario that's very, very few and far between. I went to mixed schools and mostly white schools, and I've never seen a situation where a quote unquote black girl bullies a white girl. I've never seen it. I've never seen it. Not to say it never happens. If it does happen, it doesn't happen very frequently. It's very rare. I've seen black girls bully other black girls, and I've seen white girls bully black girls, but I've never seen a black girl bully a white girl. But case in point, they set up this scenario for television viewing to give a false impression of reality. And this false impression of reality it's given to the mind. It feeds into the subconscious mind to paint a certain perspective in which it strengthens white people to see that position, because they feel as if they can be justified in certain feelings against people of color based on a lie, basically, based on this programming. And it makes black people not have any sense of reality or understanding of themselves, or just generally no understanding of reality, no ground to stand on, no dignity. This is consistent with programming all across the board. The new 90210 show, there's one black character, I believe, a black male. They have crippled this black male character. So, see, you have a subliminal message of the black character. He can't stand, he can't walk, and he's hopeless, and he has no will to carry on, and he needs this white girl to help give him the strength to continue on. And I mean, just being in that position, and not that there are never white characters in wheelchairs, but when you have an all-white cast, one black member of the cast, and you strategically put the one black member of the cast in a wheelchair and make them weak, and show that, broadcast that image of black people in a submissive, weak state. It's a subliminal message to us, and it reinforces white supremacy and their strength in themselves when they're all walking around in fashionable clothing and doing this and doing that, and you know, drinking and partying and looking like they're just having a grand old time, and you've got the black character in a wheelchair. these things are strategically done to weaken us. I was watching WKRP in Cincinnati. It's an old show from, I believe, the 70s. Again, they have one token black character, which is Tim Reed. And, I mean, cooning it up. Just cooning it up. Just a complete walking stereotype. How's it hanging man? And that's jive and blah, blah, blah. And we just gonna rap. I mean, this guy is nothing like this in real life. Nothing like that character. It's like reinforcing that false sense of who we are and what we're like, and reducing us to about a few characters on television. And I'm saying this not to say that we should beg them to portray us in a better light or a more realistic light, because we all have different personalities, we all have different ways. We're not all thugs, bullies, weak, wheelchair bound, downtrodden, sassy, militant, whatever they're trying to reduce us to. We're way more than that. So I'm not saying that we should beg for them to be fair, or why would they be fair? If they were fair, their whole house of cards would fall down, because it's built on being unfair and unjust and evil and being liars. And so they can't afford to acknowledge the truth about us as a people. So I'm not saying we should beg them for a piece of the pie. I'm just saying that we should be aware of these things. We should turn the light on in our minds to where we're not consumed by the barrage of images that are being sent to us. And more so, we should be aware of these things so that our children, which are very susceptible to this imagery, so that they're not bombarded but at any rate, that Tim Reed character on WKRP in Cincinnati, I was watching one scene and he was standing up to say a speech at a dinner. Only black person in the scene. And he had a bow around his neck. A bow around his neck. No other person in the scene had a feminine, big, fluffy bow around his neck. Why would you do that? I mean, this stuff is so strategic, it's ridiculous. How can you be a man? How can you look like a man and you have a big fluffy bow around your neck? They do these things on purpose. They can't just have a strong black man get up and make a speech in a room full of white people without somehow cooning him up a little bit. Like, he has to look like them or look like a complete fool. Like, he has to be weakened. And it's all subliminal, and it all gets taken in. It gets taken in by white people, which makes them feel good about themselves and strong, and then it gets taken into black people, which makes us feel bad about ourselves and ultimately making us spiritually weak. The truth is, we don't need any images. We don't need any role models. Like, we don't need a Beyonce. We don't need the Obama. We don't need these images that the European uses to tear us down. They use these images to mold us and to oppress us and suppress us. That's what makes them strong. We don't need any other imagery.
You know what time. Check it out. 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. Check this out. Check this